Okay. And would someone mind unmuting their microphone and just letting me know that you can see my screen before I begin this morning?
We can see it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So, guys, today on our weekly closer training, we're going to be going over um, the art of one-touch self-gens. For anyone on the call, feel free to unmute your microphone. What what is a one-touch self-gen? What is that? What do we mean by a
Same
one-touch
day
self?
walk-in appointment
You got it.
close.
That's right. It's a same-day walk-in close. Um, we don't set it up for 2 days from then. We don't set it up for later that evening. We're talking to them on the doorstep. We walk in the home and we sign docs. And we're going to be talking today about just a couple tips and tricks to do this. It's not complicated. It's actually quite simple. Um, Probably more of the purpose of this call is to put an emphasis on the importance and the value of of making this a practice in closing and in self-genning. Um, so I want to start with this question: why do we like one-touch self-gens, or why do we encourage this? Why do we train on this? What's the value of a one-touch self-gen, and why do we care if we're sitting with them and walking straight in the door versus scheduling an appointment for the day after? What's the difference? Talk to me for a second.
You get
Why
rid
do we
of
care?
you get rid of all of the margin of error as far as like the opportunity for the customer to cancel or reschedule their appointment.
Yep.
And it's just more time efficient. You're right there already, so you might as well just go in and sell the deal. And the third is that all the emotion you've built while just like hitting on pain points while you're at their doorstep is still very high. So it's an easy transition compared to setting it for a couple days out and all that emotion dies down.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. Any other thoughts on why we care about same day one touch self gens walk-ins? Any other thoughts? Sorry, there might be people that are trying to raise their hand. I just haven't put the lobby. This right here. Okay, cool. No one I missed. Uh, that was perfectly said. It's those three reasons, right? Number one, you know, what's this at? It's the same reason we like same day sets, right? We ask our setters to set the appointment for the same day for the same reason, right? 90% of sales is catching people at the right time. We eliminate all of the margin for error of them forgetting their schedule, committing to two things at the same time, and then canceling on us. And let's be honest, how often do people cancel and reschedule? I would say less than half the time. I would say less than half the time. Maybe your experience has been different, but whatever the case, there's a risk. There's absolutely a risk involved when we put it on the calendar, and we just hope that people honor the time. And so we've caught them at the right time. Number two, we're striking the iron while it's hot. We've built the pain. We've built it really well. We've built the problem really well. We have generated an incredible amount of interest. And so rather than us waiting for the heat to die down over 24 hours, we just strike the iron while it's hot, and our opportunity to influence, persuade, and solve their problems and connect with them is much, much higher. And then whoever just mentioned as well, guys, it's so time efficient. We're there, we walk in, we get everything we need, the deal's done, and we're on to our next one. Instead of having to juggle in the back of our mind, oh, okay, I've set 4 appointments and I can't run late. Nope, we're just literally taking it one at a time, and it makes your life a lot easier. So, anyways, well said. This for me um, is uh, this is the script that I use every time that I'm trying to walk in the door the same day and have and have a one-touch close. This is just what I use. And so I hope, I hope that it can be as helpful for you as it's been for me. Um, but this is just verbatim. Um, this is just verbatim what I say, and then I'm just going to make sure that we haven't missed anyone in the lobby here. Okay, if you guys wouldn't mind keeping an eye on our lobby, that way we can make sure everybody gets in here. And so this is it. I look at the customer after I've done everything I would have normally done when I'm setting, right? I just say, yeah, so normally I would just take down some basic information from you and then just take a look at our calendar and see when somebody could stop by. And then I cut myself off. Notice, I've told them this is what I normally do. And then I also said, I'd look at my calendar to see when I could send someone or somebody to stop by. We're gonna come back to that. And then I cut myself off and I say, by the way, did I catch you on your day off, or do you just normally work from home? Or if they're elderly, I get to say, are you one of those blessed individuals who's who gets to retire? I just I try to ask them what are the circumstances I've caught them under for why they were home. And then they usually tell me, "Oh yeah, you caught me on my day off," or "Yeah, my work schedule is pretty flexible," or "Oh yeah, like I like anyways, we're retired, we're just chilling," or "Yeah, we just got back from vacation," whatever it is. And then I say, "Oh, no kidding, good timing." And then what I do is I say, and then I say, I mean, and then I pause and I look down at my watch. I squint my eyes, I scratch my head, look back at my watch. I say, I mean, like I said, normally I would just take a look at the calendar and set something up for one of our analysts to stop by at a later time. I mean, if it's easier for you, I have a few minutes here before I head to my next appointment. And then I'll look down the street and I'll pause so the customer can think for a second. And then I say, I mean, if you have a few minutes, I could just borrow a corner of your table and we could just take a quick look at the numbers and see what everything looks like for your home. Um, and then I'd say, and then I'd probably finish at the end. I say, and I'd be happy to take my shoes off if, um, I'd be happy to take my shoes off if that's best for you. And and then I just walk in, and that is what I do every time. That's my script. That's my roadmap, from start to finish. Uh, I want to walk you through really quick, a few important elements that I think is the wording whenever you use it does not have to match anyone else's. I do believe in sales training, though. There are certain outcomes that have to be met. And I want to start with this. Number one, talk to me for a second. Um, we want this to sound spontaneous. Why do I say that? Or why is it important that we're looking at our watch, looking down the street, trying to act like, oh, I guess we could just like squeeze this in like right now. Why do we want to make this sound spontaneous? Why would that be important to the customer? You see if raised hands on here. Corey, go ahead.
It's to give the perception that you're busy. There's a ton of people who are ready to talk to you. You have a lot of things to do today, and you're carving out some moments of your time to fit them in the schedule because they're a good fit.
Well said. Like, we do not want to say, yeah, so can I come in? It sounds like we have nothing else to do. And they are the only person that day that is giving us the time of day. And while that might be true, they don't need to know that. But most of the time it's not, right? We're busy. We have setters who have appointments for us. We're usually self-genning in our free time. Um, and absolutely, we want them to know we're busy. Why else do we want this to sound spontaneous? What was that? Corey, did you raise your hand again, or is that by
Oh
accident?
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I thought I was waiting for you to.
Go ahead.
So it's good to sound spontaneous. For me anyway, in my experience, just the impulse of it. You know, a lot of people, when you phrase things the right way and it's like a right now kind of decision, they're more willing to accept it in the moment, kind of like striking while the iron's hot.
Totally. Totally. Second thing is we want this to sound really nonchalant. You know, like we want this to sound like, I mean, just shrugging our shoulders, throwing our arm up in the air and saying, I mean, we could. Um, I mean, what I could do is just borrow a corner of your table. We want this to sound like we could care less whether they do it now or later, because we don't want them to feel any sort of pressure that we're wanting, right, to get in the home. Number three, we want them to feel like they've cut the line. What I mean by this is we want them to feel like, oh man, people normally have to wait 24 hours for a report to be generated and send someone by. How lucky that we just get to like get this done right away. Man, we just get to like bang this out. Like we're cutting the line. Like this is so efficient. Um, and then the last thing is when I phrase it as, you know, we could just send someone else. Normally I look at my calendar and see if what time we could send someone else by. And then when I counter offer that they can just talk to me, who they've already met, who they already trust, who they've already built rapport with. They're like, oh, so I mean, I'd rather talk to him. So let's just do it. Let's just do it right now. And that for me, that's done a lot of good because, to be honest, a big reason why self-generated accounts, in my opinion, are so underrated is because people like working with the same person from start to finish. They don't like being handed off to a superior or to a manager the same way. If you look on the statistics, the pull through rate on self gens is higher than on set and closed or setter closer deals. And there's something to be said about you've built a relationship from the beginning to the finish, and people want to be able to work with you. And so I leverage that. I use that as a tool to create some urgency and get them to come inside. So, anyways, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here for a second. Cool. So, wanted to open this up here for a second. Any experiences that any of you have had, success that any of you have had with same day walk in, one touch self gens, tips and tricks that are getting you in the door or getting you in these types of situations. Um, anyone else want to add to that before we keep going? Okay.
One thing that I like to do, I don't do like a whole lot of walk-ins right away because I normally don't knock with my iPad. I'll leave it in my car, but I'll typically just tell them, okay, awesome. I'll take a picture of this, send it to my engineers. I'll have the numbers back in about 30 minutes. And I'll just pop by after my next appointment around 6, and I'll typically schedule it like 30 minutes later. So that way I can go grab my iPad, build the report, and then go back. And I've had a lot of success with that.
Yeah, and anyone who's seen Logan's stats on the leaderboards knows that yeah, he's been having plenty of success with that lately. So no, I love that. And Logan, for all intents and purposes, I consider that a same day walk in. I mean, if you're just going to your car and building the proposal, and I think there's something to be said of like being able to just have all your ducks in a row before you walk in, instead of having to juggle building the proposal with the customer. I love that. I love that. Any other approaches that people are taking that are helping them kind of accomplish striking the iron while it's hot and um, you know doing doing these right away? Corey, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love having just that ambiguous everything's up in the air attitude. You know, I
Yeah.
always leave them with typically three expectations of, hey, I still don't know if it's going to be a good fit. I'd have to look at the numbers and look at the design. But if it is, I'll be back. And I just want to let you guys know I'm not taking any money out of pocket from you. And if when we do come back, if it's a good fit, All the most that we would do is schedule a site survey for you to make sure your electrical and your roof's in good condition for the project. So we're not even near that part yet. And if it's not a good fit, what I'll do, I won't even waste your time. I'll just give you a call and let you know. It's just not going to work out, and we don't have to worry about it.
And that's the classic pullback, right? Is people want what they can't have. And when we say, hey, just so you know, a lot of this is really preliminary. We don't even have any final answers for you. All we can do is submit your proposal in an application, see if your home gets approved. If it does, well, obviously, congrats. Like you'll have another option. And if you don't, unfortunately, you'll just be stuck with the current rate schedule. And boom, right? All of a sudden, we've created another mile marker before their final decision. And it sets the expectation that the customer is going to be doing something with the information that we give them, right? We're going to be getting, we're going to be, we're going to be starting with some movement. We're going to get the ball rolling. We're going to be doing something as a result. We're not just dropping off free information for them to think about and take our business card and throw it in their filing cabinet, right? So I love it. Love that. Any other comments? Things that are helping you? Things, tips and tricks that you're using, sharing the wealth with the rest of us. Cool. Um, one more point on training today. I like I'm a big believer that I think that sometimes setting and closing gets a lot of praise and attention. And sometimes I think one of the most slept on, like, you know, like one of the most overlooked opportunities in sales is self-genning. Guys, like in every single way, in my experience, I found that self-genning is like is just optimal. Think about it. And I'm just gonna put this out there. I've taken my fair share of leads and I've had my fair share of self-gens. There are absolutely there are pros to both, and obviously at the end of the day a deal is a deal, and earning a living is earning a living, and however that happens, it happens, right? But if I'm making a case for why self-genning is kind of underrated and why I'm kind of confused why some reps that are having success in self-genning sometimes feel discouraged when they don't have a calendar full of leads, is number one, when you self-gen, you determine the quality of the lead. You never have to wonder if it's a good one or a bad one. Number two, the appointments that you set yourself, especially when we're walking in the same day, are cancel at a much lower rate. Number three, you get paid twice as much for those because you set it and you closed it. You're doubling your income when you self-gen. Number four, um, as a result, you're cutting your pipeline management in half, because if you needed 40 assists or closed sets, that means you only need 20 self gens. It means that you get to have twice as much, you get to cut your project management time in half. You have a little bit more pricing flexibility because you have the full stack to work with and you don't have to split it with someone else. And on top of that, your retention will pull through better because you've set perfect expectations from the beginning. You've eliminated the margin for error, and you have carried the customer from start to finish. You've been their main point of contact, and there's simply just more trust there. And so I bring up these points to say I think that we are sleeping as an industry on the value of self gens, and sometimes I think that we always think the grass is greener. And while I think we all love the idea of leads, in the hopes of maybe taking a little bit of the sweat and the grind out of our job, my opinion is you're gonna have to work hard either way. On When you're taking sets and you're closing them, you have a lot more pipeline management on the back end, and I think the appointments require a little bit more energy and time investment. Whereas with self-gens, yep, you go out and you produce your own leads, but on the back end, the retention is better, the project management is less, and you know. Anyways, that's my humble opinion on why I I think that self-genning is kind of the coolest thing since sliced bread. So, by a raise of hands, um, by a raise of hands, anyone else side, does anyone else side with that logic and kind of feel like maybe you've learned over your career that self-gens are cooler than you thought they were. Um, I definitely have. So, anyways, we I'd like to wrap up our call today real quick. Um, and what I'd like, I just want to end on a really quick note, kind of in the spirit of the summer starting and everything like that. Um, see this right here. Wanted to leave you guys with one kind of note before we leave our call today. Pull this up right here. Okay. This is something that I kind of live by. I mean, it's a quote that I heard a few years ago, and it's really changed the way that I look at sales. And what it says is success is not something that you achieve. Success is something that you attract. I'll say that again. Success is not something that you achieve. It's something that you attract. We become successful um, by developing qualities that attract more success. And it has less to do with how, and I guess I'd always thought that success was something that I just had to like grit my teeth and grind and sweat with blood, sweat, and tears. And don't get me wrong, any success requires hard work. But what I've learned through this process is that really what success is learning to develop qualities that attract success. There's another quote that says, if you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you'll make a fortune. A lot of sales training platforms talk about how they want to teach people how to set. I think people need to learn how to communicate. Training platforms say we're going to teach you how to close. I think people just need to learn how to solve problems. People say we want to teach you how to sell. I think you just need to learn how to talk to people. Um, and I think at the end of the day, like what's really cool about this job is the only way that we succeed and the only way that we earn more and the only way that we accomplish more, the only way that we, you know, level up, we can't like people please our way into being at the top of our industry. We can't just like workplace politics and kiss up and like maneuver our way up a ladder by being you know by managing optics. The only way that we improve in this job is by becoming better versions of ourselves, more intelligent, more empathetic, better listeners, more engaging, more humorous, more compassionate, um, more patient, more understanding. The only way that we get better at our job is by becoming better people. And I'm just a huge fan of this world of sales that we live in that forces us to become the best versions of ourselves, that incentivizes self development and improvement unlike any other job that I've ever seen. And I think in closing, we're selling a high ticket item, and we're 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 able. It's incredible to learn skills that allow us to open up. Sometimes a 20, 30, 40, 50, $80,000 loan, or a 25-year energy savings contract after about 45 to 60 minutes of meeting someone for the first time. Like, it's just impressive. And it just says, it just says a lot about someone. Um, and so, anyways, I'm a firm believer that while we always are focused on the next thing we got to fix and the next thing we got to improve, if you could go back in time 5 years ago, I'm pretty confident that everyone on this call, the person you were 5 years ago, would be really proud of the person you've become, the things you've overcome, the things that you've learned, and how you've been able to get yourself to where you are today. And I think they'd be super proud. I think they'd be ecstatic. And so, as we're aspiring for self improvement, as we're trying to sharpen the saw and to become better, um, let's also take a reminder to look back through the rearview mirror briefly and remind ourselves that while there may be a long gap between where we are and where we're trying to go, um, we've made some pretty good ground on where we used to be and where we've been, and that should be something that we're proud of. That gives us momentum to um, to keep going. And so, um, anyways, little thought for today. Let's make sure this week we go out and we're pushing for same day walk in self gens. Let's make it spontaneous. Let's make it nonchalant. Um, let's make it low pressure, and let's go make a killing by catching people at the right time and striking the iron while it's hot. So, any questions before we hop off our call and wrap up today? Okay. Thank you everyone for coming on. Thank you for being on our call. Great to be with you. Good luck the rest of this week, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.